Single dad rescued a CEO from a crash, but walked away from everything she offered. The rain-slicked highway glistened under the headlights as Marcus Turner drove home from his night shift. He never expected that stopping for a smoking wreck would change his life forever, or that he'd walk away from the fortune offered by the woman he pulled from the flames. If you've ever wondered what true integrity looks like in a world obsessed with wealth and status, this story will touch your heart. Like and subscribe to see more incredible true stories of ordinary heroes who remind us what really matters in life. Marcus Turner's windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour as he navigated the empty highway at 2 a.m. His eyes burned from exhaustion after pulling a double shift at the warehouse. The overtime pay would help with Lily's school supplies, but his daughter's disappointed face when he'd missed her soccer game again haunted him more than his fatigue. The twisted guardrail appeared suddenly in his headlights, followed by the crumpled luxury SUV teetering at the edge of the ravine. Steam hissed from the crushed hood, mixing with the rain to create an eerie fog around the wreckage. "Damn it," Marcus muttered, pulling over and grabbing the flashlight from his glove compartment. He'd seen enough accidents in his years as a volunteer firefighter before Lily was born to know that every second counted. The vehicle's front end was completely destroyed, airbags deployed and deflated. Through the spiderweb driver's window, he could make out a woman slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. The interior lights flickered, illuminating an expensive-looking suit, and a leather briefcase spilled open across the passenger seat. "Ma'am? Can you hear me?" Marcus called, trying the door handle. It was jammed. The smell of gasoline grew stronger, and a flicker of orange beneath the hood sent a surge of adrenaline through his body. Without hesitation, Marcus grabbed the tire iron from his trunk and smashed the passenger window. Glass rained over the leather seats as he climbed inside, careful to avoid the jagged edges. The woman stirred slightly as he reached across to unbuckle her seatbelt. "I'm going to get you out of here," he said firmly, though he wasn't sure she could hear him. The car might catch fire. As if summoned by his words, flames licked up from under the hood. Marcus worked faster, maneuvering the woman's limp body through the passenger side. She was lighter than he expected, but awkward to carry through the broken window. His hands slipped on her rain-soaked blazer, and he felt a sharp pain as glass sliced into his forearm. Ignoring the blood now mixing with the rain on his skin, Marcus carried the woman up the embankment just as the flames engulfed the engine compartment. They were barely 20 feet away when the gas tank ignited, the explosion lighting up the night sky and sending a wave of heat against their backs. The woman's eyes fluttered open, disoriented and filled with pain. "My briefcase," she whispered. "My laptop." "They're gone," Marcus said gently, setting her down on the wet grass and checking her pulse. "But you're alive." He called 911. Then wrapped his jacket around her shoulders as they waited for the ambulance. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and in the distance, sirens wailed. "I'm Elise Harrington," the woman said, her voice stronger now despite the blood matting her dark hair. "CEO of Harrington Technologies." Marcus nodded absently, more concerned with the gash on her forehead than her title. "Marcus Turner. You've got a nasty cut there, but the paramedics will be here soon." "You saved my life," she said, studying him with intense gray eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of his appearance, the worn work boots, the faded jeans, the warehouse logo on his t-shirt. "Anyone would have done the same," he replied, though they both knew that wasn't true. Most people would have called 911 and kept driving, especially at that hour, especially in that rain. "No," Elise said firmly. "They wouldn't have." 3 days later, Marcus sat at his kitchen table sorting through past due notices while Lily worked on her homework. The cut on his arm throbbed beneath its bandage, a reminder of Sunday night's events. "Dad, someone's at the door," Lily called, peering through the window of their modest rental house. "It's a fancy car." Marcus frowned, setting down the electric bill. He wasn't expecting anyone, and bill collectors didn't drive luxury sedans. When he opened the door, Elise Harrington stood on his porch, looking remarkably recovered despite the butterfly bandage above her eyebrow. Her tailored pantsuit probably cost more than his monthly rent. "Mr. Turner," she said with a smile that transformed her serious face. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion. The hospital gave me your information." "That's probably against some privacy law," Marcus said, bewildered. Elise's smile turned wry. "I can be persuasive. May I come in?" Lily appeared at his side, curious eyes taking in their unexpected visitor. "Are you the lady my dad saved?" "I am," Elise said, her voice softening as she addressed the 10-year-old. "Your father is a hero." Marcus felt his face warm. "We were just about to have dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, but you're welcome to join us." To his surprise, Elise accepted. As they ate at the small kitchen table, she observed their modest home with interest rather than judgment. Lily dominated the conversation, telling Elise about her soccer team and science project with the unfiltered enthusiasm of childhood. After Lily went to finish her homework, Elise's expression turned serious. "I've done some research on you, Marcus. Former volunteer firefighter, honorably discharged from the army, sole guardian to your daughter since your wife passed 5 years ago. Working 2 jobs to make ends meet." Marcus stiffened. "I don't need charity, Ms. Harrington." "Elise, please," she corrected. "And this isn't charity. It's an opportunity. My company needs someone with your integrity and courage. I'd like to offer you a position in our security department. The starting salary is $85,000, with full benefits." Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. That was more than double what he made at both his jobs combined. "I don't have the qualifications for corporate security," he said carefully. "You have exactly the qualifications that matter," Elise countered. "The rest can be taught." Before Marcus could respond, she continued. "There's more. I've established a college fund for Lily. Regardless of whether you accept the job, that money is hers." Marcus set down his mug, a complicated mix of emotions churning in his chest. "Why would you do that?" Elise's composed facade cracked slightly. "Because I was on that road Sunday night after learning my father has stage 4 cancer. I was distracted, driving too fast. If you hadn't come along." She took a steadying breath. "Money is the one thing I have in abundance, Marcus. Let me use it to thank you properly." The next morning, Marcus visited his friend Carlos, who owned the auto shop where he worked weekends. "You'd be crazy not to take it," Carlos said, wiping grease from his hands. "Corporate job, benefits, enough money to move to a better neighborhood? This is the break you've been waiting for." Marcus leaned against the workbench, unconvinced. "It feels wrong, like I'm cashing in on doing what anyone should have done." "But they didn't do it." "You did," Carlos pointed out. "And from what you've told me, this CEO lady isn't exactly hurting for cash." "That's not the point," Marcus said, struggling to articulate his discomfort. "I don't want Lily to think that helping people should come with a reward." Carlos shook his head. "Sometimes good things happen to good people, amigo. Maybe the universe is finally cutting you a break." That evening, Marcus sat with Lily on their small porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Dad?" Lily asked, her head resting against his shoulder. "Are we going to move? Jenny at school said when you get rich, you move to a big house." Marcus looked down at his daughter, surprised. "Who said anything about getting rich? I heard you talking to the lady about the job and the money for college." Lily picked at a loose thread on her shorts. "Does that mean I can take dance classes like Sophia?" The hope in her voice squeezed Marcus's heart. Lily had wanted dance lessons for years, but they'd never been able to afford them along with soccer fees. "Would you like that?" he asked softly. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "And maybe you wouldn't have to work at night anymore? And we could visit Grandma more often? Each simple wish was a knife to Marcus's conscience. He'd been so focused on the principle of the matter that he'd forgotten to consider what Elise's offer could mean for Lily's happiness. The Harrington Technologies headquarters towered over downtown, all glass and steel reflecting the morning sunlight. Marcus adjusted his tie, borrowed from Carlos, and took a deep breath before entering the lobby. The receptionist directed him to the top floor, where Elise's assistant showed him into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Marcus," Elise greeted him, rising from behind an imposing desk. "I'm glad you came. I've been thinking about your offer," he said, declining her invitation to sit. "It's incredibly generous." "But?" Elise prompted, reading his expression. "But I can't accept it," Marcus said firmly. "Not the job, not the college fund. It doesn't feel right." Disappointment flashed across Elise's face. "May I ask why?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "I didn't pull you from that car for a reward. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Taking money for it changes what happened into a transaction." "That's not my intention," Elise said. "I know," Marcus acknowledged. "But it would change how I see myself, and how I want my daughter to see me." Elise studied him for a long moment. "You're an unusual man, Marcus Turner." "I'm just a regular guy who tries to do right by his kid," he said with a slight shrug. "But I do have a counter-proposal." Elise raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Your company has that summer camp program for underprivileged kids, right? The one that teaches coding and robotics?" Marcus had researched Harrington Technologies thoroughly before making his decision. "Yes, the Future Innovators Initiative," Elise confirmed. "Lily's school is in a district that could really benefit from something like that. Instead of helping just us, maybe you could expand the program there?" A slow smile spread across Elise's face. "You're turning down personal gain to help an entire community?" Marcus felt his cheeks warm. "It just seems like a better use of your gratitude." 6 months later, Marcus stood at the back of the school gymnasium, watching Lily and 20 other children demonstrate the robots they'd built through the Harrington Technologies outreach program. His daughter's face glowed with pride as her team's creation successfully navigated an obstacle course, earning applause from parents and teachers alike. "She has your determination," a familiar voice said beside him. Marcus turned to find Elise watching the demonstration, dressed more casually than he'd ever seen her in slacks and a simple blouse. "How's your father doing?" he asked. "Responding well to treatment," Elise said with cautious optimism. "The prognosis is better than we initially thought." "I'm glad to hear it." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the children celebrate their success. "You know," Elise said eventually, "we still have an opening in our community outreach department. The pay isn't as good as what I offered before, but the hours would let you be home for dinner with Lily every night." Marcus gave her a sidelong glance. "Is this another thank you?" "No," Elise said with a small smile. "This is me recognizing talent and integrity when I see it. The program you suggested has been so successful we're expanding it to 10 more schools next year. We need someone who understands both the communities we serve and the values of our company." Before Marcus could respond, Lily ran up to them, excitement radiating from her. "Dad! Miss Harrington! Did you see our robot? We programmed it ourselves." "It was impressive," Elise said warmly. "You have a real talent for engineering." Lily beamed at the praise. "My team is going for ice cream to celebrate. Can I go, Dad? Please?" As Marcus watched his daughter dash off to join her friends, he felt something shift inside him. For the first time since Sarah died, Lily seemed truly carefree, part of something bigger than their small, struggling family of 2. "About that job," he said, turning back to Elise. "I'd like to hear more." Elise's smile widened. "I thought you might." 1 year after the crash, Marcus stood in the auditorium of Lily's school, watching his daughter receive an award for her science project, a simplified water filtration system inspired by the community service work they'd done together through Harrington Technologies' outreach program. His job as Community Initiatives Director had changed their lives in ways he never expected. They'd moved to a small house closer to Lily's school, with a yard where she could practice soccer. She took dance classes twice a week and had blossomed into a confident, compassionate 11-year-old who talked about becoming an engineer. But the greatest change was in Marcus himself. Working with underserved communities, helping create opportunities for kids who reminded him of himself growing up, it had healed something broken inside him since Sarah's death. After the ceremony, he found Elise waiting in the lobby, a proud smile on her face as she congratulated Lily. "You didn't have to come," Marcus said when Lily ran off to show her friends her trophy. "I wanted to," Elise replied simply. "Your daughter is remarkable. She takes after her mother," Marcus said with the bittersweet smile that thoughts of Sarah always brought. "And her father," Elise added. She hesitated, then continued. "You know, a year ago when you turned down my offer, I thought you were either crazy or playing some angle I couldn't see." Marcus chuckled. "Just stubborn, according to most people who know me." "Principled," Elise corrected. "It's rare, especially in my world. You taught me something important that day." "What's that?" "That the most valuable things can't be bought or sold." She glanced toward Lily, now laughing with her friends. "Some things are worth more than money: integrity, community, setting the right example for the next generation." Marcus nodded, understanding completely. "I never thanked you properly, you know." "For what?" Elise asked, genuinely puzzled. "For respecting my decision. For finding a way to help that honored what mattered to me." He smiled. "For seeing me as more than just the guy who pulled you from a burning car." "Well," Elise said with a hint of the business-like efficiency that had built her company, "it was a sound investment. Your community programs have improved our corporate image and employee retention significantly." But the warmth in her eyes told a different story, one about connection, respect, and the unexpected friendship that had grown between two people from vastly different worlds, brought together by chance and kept together by shared values. As they walked toward Lily and her friends, Marcus reflected on how differently things might have turned out if he'd accepted Elise's initial offer. He would have had financial security sooner, certainly. But he wouldn't have found this sense of purpose, wouldn't have shown Lily that helping others was its own reward, wouldn't have built something that benefited hundreds of children instead of just their family. Some would still call him crazy for walking away from a fortune. But watching his daughter's face light up as she explained her project to Elise, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that he'd made the right choice. Sometimes the most valuable things in life were the ones you couldn't put a price tag on, and sometimes walking away from everything you're offered leads you exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of everyday heroes who remind us what truly matters in life. Sometimes the greatest wealth comes not from what we receive, but from what we're willing to give up for something more meaningful.